Thank you. Well, I agree with what's been shared. The technology as a tool, technology as a catalyst, and trying to integrate instructional strategies using technology rather than technology being the answer. First level change, second level change, and just because you're using technology, putting a document under an overhead is probably very close to using a document camera. That doesn't mean you're using technology. So trying to integrate learning and how powerful technology can be is part of the professional development for staff throughout the country. I'm not sure this is unique to any of our districts or Washington State. We have some challenges that students need some foundational skills in the middle group. Our younger generation almost thinks technology. I don't think there's a huge perspective on technology being fluff anymore. We're preparing students for jobs that don't even exist yet, and that's a known conversation. Trying to move the support for teachers to instructionally provide that for the diverse learning needs in a public school is probably a different picture than some choice private school opportunities and backgrounds, foundational skills and belief systems that come to that setting. And so recognizing those differences is pretty critical in trying to move any kind of system forward. And each of our districts have diverse populations of thinking, of demographics that impact what we can do and the kinds of support that we need to get there. But I believe that's the direction, just like my colleagues.
One of the things that's interesting, Bob, as they were talking, is that when I think of this learning environment on the right, what we do often with technology is we try and use technology tools to automate, in many cases, the existing environment instead of designing the learning environment around the paradigm that kids live in today and they'll be living in the future. So, for example, today I was on a conference call around Web 2.0 technologies, and the question was posed, and this was part of a national release on a study around Web 2.0. The question was posed, how many superintendents have actually done school design around these 21st century skills and Web 2.0 technologies being as an example of that. And it was actually less than 50% of the superintendent survey had actually done school and program design around that rather than taking a new technology and applying it to what we know and what we're doing. That is a complete different paradigm in thinking that needs to shift. And that's actually the hardest work of all. It's long and it's hard and it's drawn out. And when we look at school reform work across the country, the most successful school reform work is done when you can reconstitute a staff and reconstitute a school. The most difficult work is when you actually have to apply that changes in paradigm, changes in thinking to an existing school and an existing culture and an existing system. And that's what we really struggle with.
I noticed, if I go on here, there's different ways, lots of different ways people are approaching it. You mentioned skills for the 21st century. I've got a list here from the CEO Conference Board, Partnership for 21st Century Skills, and so on, lists like 32 different skills. All we are really teaching is the basics, and we're moving into science. So it becomes a very major issue of not only the teachers and the public, but I know with school board members, a lot of them want to just recreate schools of their youth, particularly at the higher socioeconomic ends. How do you all see that evolving? Because you're dealing, actually you've got three entirely different perspectives of socioeconomics. Chip's probably in the higher category, and Renton probably in the lower, and in the middle is Shoreline. Entirely different populations of people to deal with. How are you handling that?
Well, I'll start with the list. If you could turn back to that. I don't agree that all we're doing is the basic and moving in science. I think we have tremendous work in curiosity, creativity, and risk-taking that has happened for years. The personal and social responsibility, Some of the things that are incorporated into our schools right now are not recognized, and our teachers are doing phenomenal work in those areas. The lack of the link to the technology, I would agree with. So some of the skills for the 21st century, even just in personal development, are not any different from the skills we need to be successful adults from our generation. But some of the visual and information technology and some of the literacy knowledge, not all of the adults understand, so it's kind of difficult to teach it if you don't know it yourself. And so, again, part of the integration of people with expertise in technology and instruction, and then working closely with the experts in technology hardware, if you will, for making sure that you can use the information to get to those next levels in the thinking that kids need for the future. But I think some of the foundational skills for the 21st century are what public schools are all about, and I think our teachers are doing amazingly great work in those areas, especially when you have a supportive community, which Renton is blessed with, for the social part and interactive communication and being part of a community and what that means, just to learn to be a functioning human being and contributing to society. So,
very good. Sue?
My thoughts went the same direction as Mary Alice's. We're doing far in our classrooms. Our instructional staff does a wonderful job of addressing a number of items on this list. And when I think back to what classrooms looked like simply 15 years ago and what they look like today, there's a significant difference. Again, I would say we struggle most with how to use technology to enhance that even more. How to make it more authentic, how to make the connection of the technology being more than a fancy tool to make the presentation look better, but rather deeper, more breadth, etc. So I would also say that in a community that values its educational program like Shoreline does, there's been a recognition of the importance of the cultural awareness piece, the arts, the importance of music in the program, etc. We just have to figure out how to use the technology to enhance that even more, and then how to support teachers with the ability to understand and not have to discover on their own how this technology can be used. I truly believe that demonstrating, having opportunities for teachers to see something being implemented, and then providing them sample lessons, etc., best practice, will take them further more quickly than we're really able to do with the professional development monies we're able to put towards that cause. And with state budget issues, as they are right now, we'll have even less of that professional development money to spend that we so desperately need to make the transition to that school that is truly constructivist, exciting, authentic, real, and creates that energy and excitement district-wide, classroom-wide, organizational-wide.
Okay.